Okay, so this is our video on blending modes. So we've got this goofy image that I made, this goofy little combo image. Um, Everything's on a different layer. Let's take a look. Oh, and there's even my demo for gradient map. Let's get rid of that one. And of course, you can, to do that, select the layer and just hit delete, new in CS5. Never mind that though. Let's take a look. Here's an adjustment layer that adjusted that color balance on the mask. Took it from kind of a greenish to sort of a reddish tint to it. And pardon me, let's see each layer. Here's that little ogre mask itself, rather the ogre clay figure. These two layers are the chalk drawings that are on the sidewalk. And each of, or rather this one has a mask to it. And you've noticed each of those layers had a blending mode. Now this one, layer 1, is normal because that chalk drawing photo was taken outside and this is in context outside. So a normal mode is just fine. It pretty much replaces what's going on underneath it, and hopefully the color balance of the two is believable. So that layer has a normal mode. This next layer, with the image inside the window, or rather reflected in the window, has a multiply mode on it. Let's see what would happen if we gave that a normal mode. Looks a little bit bright for the reflection. Looks too bright. In fact, it looks brighter because of what's underneath it. It looks brighter than the one that's out on the sidewalk. So we definitely don't want that. Now these blending modes, you can use them on a layer. Some of the tools have a set of blending modes. Some of them have this very same set that you'll see on a layer. And sometimes even brushes can have blending modes. Here's how they work. There's a normal and dissolve. Fairly similar. This next batch, and they're kind of grouped. There's a little line rule in between each group of 5 or 6. This next group is the darkening group. We'll say, hey Photoshop, this layer with the chalk drawing on it, only use that to darken what's underneath it. And all those light pixels just pretty much disappear. Now that's a little radical. That's more than we want. Next one down in the darkening group is multiply. Multiply it's almost as if you're taking ink and printing over top of it. So darks and lights show through, but that blending layer underneath also has a great effect on what's on this layer. So I get that kind of smoky color from the windows blended in to the existing sky there in that chalk drawing. So that's not a bad blending mode here. And if I've got the reflection all blocked out properly, this starts to look pretty believable. The reflection, rather the window mullions, if I've got those blocked out properly, then the reflection in the window starts to look believable. Let's see what other blending modes we have in the sample. Layer 3 has a linear dodge mode. Now that's in this lighten collection. With this lighten group, I'm saying, hey Photoshop, this ogre mask layer, only use that to lighten what's underneath it. And this is what that would look like. These darker shadows just pretty much fade into the background at that point. The only thing that lightens it are these highlights. The other one is screen. Screen is like if we had a number of projections and projected them over top of each other, how that light would start to add up. Not too dramatic in this particular example. You'll find other examples that will be. There's a link in the link section, I think, that should link you to an Adobe help page that defines all of these. And they do a pretty good job in there saying how all of these blending modes are determined. You know, it's the light value of the top layer calculated against, you know, an inverse proportion of the dark value of the blending layer. And it's a little complicated, but basically these are the lightning groups, and it's a variation on that lighten theme. Hey Photoshop, use this layer to lighten the image, and these will have various calculations on them that make them act in a different way. Now this linear dodge, we keep part of the shadow here, even though the emphasis is on the highlighted areas. And for this reflection, that's pretty good. You'll also notice on this layer, even though I've blended it, I've also turned down the opacity quite a bit. And at full opacity, even the blending mode makes it appear that this image is on the outside of the glass. I wanted it to look like the image was on the inside of the glass. Sir, the call is coming from within the building, that sort of thing. So there we go, linear dodge. And then lastly, the color balance that kind of pinks this guy up a little bit rather than making him green. Arguably green would be a little more spooky, but there's a lot of reds and so forth in the palette of this image, so I thought that makes him fit into the building more, or fade into the building just a little bit more than he was before. So that's what I've got for this little combo image. Now, on most of these assignments, I ask you to tell a story with this. It's an awfully short story. It's one frame. But what could we do to make this look a little spooky? You could add other images. The assignment says use at least 3. You could add more. You could have, a friend or family member pose as if they're looking at the chalk drawing or kneeling down to actually draw the chalk drawing. We could have another friend or family member pose as a figure standing next to that person, pointing out, hey, there's something weird going on in the building. This looks a little spooky. I was talking about this with one of my face-to-face classes, and someone said, hey, why don't we make it so that the ogre has walked out of the chalk drawing and gone through the window and is inside there? And I said, well, how would we do that just in this one image that we've got? And they said, hey, how about we draw chalk footprints going from the drawing up to the window? And for that matter, you could maybe add a little bit of chalk dust in and around the window. Now that would be kind of spooky. That would tell a story. That would really fit with the assignment. So I hope you've enjoyed this little quick introduction to blending modes. We'll be talking quite a lot about them in the weeks to come.